All right, evening everybody. Thanks for coming out. Could we start as usual? Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. We actually have one addition to the agenda tonight, and we'll do that right now with turn it over to Tom for our celebrating success.
Testing. There we go. Well, I have some ladies that I would like to pull forward here. We have Tommy Carter, Camilla Beaver, Danielle Dornan was not able to make it today, Casey Jo Walters, and Christy Freitag. Come on, you can come up here too. And Kelly McWirt. I want to, each month we do a celebrating success when we talk about when our employees have gone above and beyond the call of duty, and they absolutely have. These ladies did a tremendous job. Move this slide forward. There we go. I'm going to read something that was on Facebook. This individual posted the following. I enjoyed Lake Point's brunch today. Food was delicious and the service was wonderful. There was a man there celebrating his 89th birthday, all alone. When the staff realized that he was alone and it was his birthday, they made sure that he had a memorable and special time. They took pictures with him, which you see up there, and spent time fussing over him. We were so impressed with the staff and their kindness. Way to go, Lake Point Restaurants. Tremendous job. We always talk about making sure that we provide superior customer service, and what you guys did that day, saying superior customer service just doesn't say enough. That is so tremendous, and I'm so proud of all of you. Great job, and we have little gifts for each one of you. Let's give them one more round of applause, please. Thank you, ladies. You can go out that way. They're going to sneak out the back door.
All right. Move on to approval of minutes. We'll turn this over to Doug. We have everybody here tonight except Joshua, who's gone, and John has his proxy.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the March 15, 2018 board work session meeting minutes. John seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? I'll entertain a motion to approve the March 22nd, 2018 Board of Directors regular meeting minutes. Ruth and Jim. Any discussion? All in favor? I'll entertain a motion to approve the April 19, 2018 executive session minutes. Who moved that? David and David. Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Josh wasn't there. He's not voting.
Okay, Joshua abstains and Pat abstains. Okay. Joshua abstains and Pat Lowry abstains.
All right. Money guy.
All right. We're going to talk about the income statements on the first quarter review. This is year-to-date March 2018, and these are in thousands of dollars. We're going to start with the POA income statement. Looking at the revenue section, we're going to look at the variances. The variances against budget, excuse me, facility use fees are better than budget by $38,000. That's due to a good, strong photo ID, $22,000. Golf is down $56,000 due to weather and the timing change in the annual permit renewal dates. Food and beverage is down $90,000 due to the fact that the country club opened later than what we had budgeted, and it was only open a few days in March, so these numbers don't really reflect any sales too much of that. Looking at the prior year variances, excuse me, last year Lake Point wasn't open, so that's $176,000 pickup in food and beverage sales. The rebates, we get a rebate from Carroll Electric about every 14 months or so whenever the capital credits are issued, and that was $93,017. The next scheduled rebate is in 2019, so that's a variance. Golf, again, 118 against last year, same reason. Investment income is down 164. Reduced investments, and the market was really strong last year at this point in time. Past due collections down 174,000. Legal had 148 large collection last year, a windfall that we don't have this year, and accounting is down 26. These are still good numbers. Looking at the expense section, this is against budget. Salaries and wages are better than budget by 203,000 due to open positions, vacancies, and also planned savings. Equipment and tools are better than budget by almost 100,000 due to savings all across the divisions and some reaction to the less revenue that we're really receiving. Maintenance and repairs, also a savings of 82,000 for the same reason, reaction to the less revenue. Looking at prior year variances compared to last year, small equipment in the division makes up the equipment and tools. We bought a little more, but the budget changes. From year to year, the budget changes, so this is really sometime an unfair comparison, but year over year, 44,000 more in that expense. Maintenance and repairs, 48,000 due to golf maintenance. Employee benefits was 139,000 worse than budget because of self-funded health insurance. We had a really good, strong first quarter last year in our benefits. Salaries and wages down 264, mainly the addition of food and beverage and also some differences across the division. And again, the restaurant was opened late. Looking at our EBITDA, that is the earnings before income taxes, depreciation, and allocations, we got $370,000. That's $370,000 better than what we had budgeted. That's good numbers, fellers. That's a lot of money. Looking at the cash flow section of the income statement, cash flow is a negative $88,000 against the budget of a negative $477,000. So even with that number, we're still $389,000 better than what we had budgeted. That's a good, strong showing also. Last year was 1.29. Looking at the water utility, the same period, the first 3 months, first quarter. Looking at revenue section, variances on revenue, water sales and new connects better than budget by 125,000. All the new growth coming into the village. Water capital buy-in fee, 114,000. Building permits. Looking at the variances against prior year income, water again 102 better than budget for the same reason. Capital buy-in fee again 92,000 for the same reason. And investment income, as we've already spoke, is down 94,000 from last year. Looking at the expense section in the water, salaries and wages are better by 12,000 due to open positions. Credit card fees and interest expense higher than budget by 10,000, and that's due to credit card and bank fees. Comparing to last year, employee benefits are higher than 11,000, self-funded insurance again. Maintenance and repairs a little higher by 15,000. These are not very big numbers, variances. System repairs and salaries and wages higher by 22 due to labor. Looking at the EBITDA on this one, it's 198,000 better than budget at the first 3 months. And the cash flow, the actual cash flow is 179,000 against the budget of 2,000 against last year of 180. So we're 177,000 better than budget also on the water utility. And that concludes my report. Pending any questions?
All right.
Thanks, Dwayne.
Yes, sir.
Next on the agenda, response to previous open forum comments. There were none. And we're going to open it up the floor for anyone who wants to speak in a few minutes for open forum comments this evening. But first, before we do that, I'll make a few comments. First, Please remember that the people sitting at this table didn't cause this challenge that we have right now. We didn't cause the upstream development from 7,000 to 87,000 people, and we didn't make the rain. After 7 floods in 7 years, we did say it's time to do a proper evaluation before spending any more of your money without a solid, expert information and a rational plan. Something that, in retrospect, we probably should have done years ago. Last spring, before we spent another $560,000 on flood repair, we closed 9 holes of Burksdale, and we engaged a top hydrology engineering firm. We gathered information from the Corps of Engineers, all environmental and permitting agencies, and all interested parties, and that work took a year. We presented the full results in 2 public meetings. That information is on the dedicated page of the POA website, including a video of the presentation. We then analyzed and developed the basic options and presented them in a public meeting. That presentation is also available on the POA website, including the video. There are no easy answers, and there are clearly no answers that will make everyone happy. I'm not sure there's one that will make anyone happy, at least not in the beginning. It's one of the most complex challenges in the history of Bella Vista. But we do believe there are attractive and viable solutions to be found. We've communicated with property owners and asked for their input through emails to the more than 20,000 email addresses that we have, on our POA website, and on our POA Facebook page, and at 3 public meetings in Reardon Hall. We established and communicated a dedicated email address for responses. And between that email address and our personal email addresses, we've received about 150 messages and reviewed all of them. We've responded to most of them. And we've had countless verbal conversations with property owners. Much of the input has been constructive, and we very much appreciate that. For others, it's clear the person did not review the information we provided. They didn't offer recommendations and they did offer recommendations that are contrary to all data, all regulatory and permitting requirements, all economic realities, and frankly, any common sense. So we get a lot of those. It helps to go first and review the data. And some can only be described as hate mail. Now, we understand that people have passion for Bella Vista. Clearly, we all share that passion as well, or we would not be willing to go through all of this. We also have to face that in our current world of social media, there are people who choose to intentionally post false, misleading, and inflammatory information. The same is true for email. Use of blind copies so that the recipients receive the false statement, but not the factual answer. Some people choose to promote and believe paranoid conspiracy theories that we have some kind of preconceived self-serving agenda. Anybody can say anything on Facebook or blind copy emails, however false, however misleading, however hateful, however hurtful. Like all of you, all of us at this table also have feelings and emotions. We also feel disappointment and loss, and the dread of the real challenges and the changes that we face. We feel the oppressive weight of this thing every minute of every day. We feel the strain in relationships with our friends and neighbors, some of whom choose to blame us for the reality that we did not cause and choose to speak to us rudely if they speak to us at all. Over golf courses. Our emotional health suffers, our physical health suffers. But we don't have the luxury of pretending we know more about hydrology or bridge building or permitting or environmental agencies than the trained professionals we hired and consulted. Or to create nice braggadocio stories about how the solution is simple if only the board weren't such a bunch of crooked idiots. The easiest and maybe the most rational thing for the members of this board to do would be simply walk away. And some may choose to do that, but I hope not. The members of this board have spent hundreds of hours studying this challenge and collecting information from trained experts who have no dog in this fight, only to give us accurate information. We're fortunate to have members of this board with more knowledge, background, and experience with land development than we have ever had on any Bella Vista POA board. They know that. And they've chosen not to follow the easier path of just passing it on to someone who does not have such experience. And fortunately, a number of them will still be on the board when somewhere between 2 and 4 new members are seated on June 1st, depending on the outcome of the election. From the beginning, we have been committed to a rational, fact-based, stepwise approach, just as we restated in last week's position statement. As we open the floor to comments, I'll ask a few things of you to make this as constructive as possible tonight. First, as we've done in previous meetings on this issue, I don't want to have to limit people to 3 minutes, as long as what you have to say is informative and constructive. But if we have a long, long line, we will try to make sure everybody has a chance to say something. If you have a specific recommendation, it needs to have a rational financial plan. For example, if it's your wish to keep all of Burksdale open, you can take the basic economic facts we've provided on the POA website, you can calculate the necessary investments, divide it by a projected number of rounds on that golf course, and your calculator will show that an additional $11 per round over the next 10 years would cover those costs, if we experience no costs for flood cleanup and repair over the next 10 years. If your calculation includes an assumption that we would spend $100,000 per year over the next 10 years, an additional for flood cleanup, an additional $15 per round would be required. And both of those calculations assume the rounds would not decrease on Burksdale as a result of the higher green fees. If it's your wish to keep both Burksdale and Kingsdale as the 36-hole venue they've always been, there's an $11.3 million cost for that over the next 10 years, plus whatever costs we may face for unpredictable flood cleanup and repair. We can all wish for anything. Say we're in favor of anything. I wish there was a board I could go to where I could go in and tell them I'm in favor of them giving me a new car and a private plane, and then blame the board if they don't provide what I'm in favor of. If you want to argue that if we had refurbished the country club and Lake Point so we could then fix the valley, that is simply not true. The few million dollars we spent on those things is a small fraction of the challenge we face in the valley. And many of us are very happy we've invested in amenities that will not wash away or sustain damage from unpredictable floods. And the reality is that money is spent and cannot help solve the problem we face right now in the valley. Finally, some of you have suggested we do a vote of the entire membership before making any decisions. You can choose to argue that, but please keep a few things in mind. First, what exactly would the questions be on the ballot? A vote for something with no visible way to pay for it has no more value than me asking for an airplane. And most importantly, please consider this. We have no amenity that is enjoyed by a majority of our property owners. For example, a few years ago we did an analysis that showed we have about 7,000 regular golfers. Many of those are husband and wife in the same unit, so they occupy about 4,000 lots or votes out of our total of 38,000 lots or votes. And I'm guessing that a vote of the entire membership would be not be favorable to golf. But the same could be said for tennis and parks and playgrounds and lakes and trails and exercise facilities, etc. There is no amenity that the majority of us use regularly. Do we want to divide into groups and encourage people to vote only for their preferred amenity and vote against keeping any amenity they don't personally use? Would that be wise, productive to begin that kind of divisive process? What would be the ultimate outcome? I hope most of us would agree that the most positive vision would be to do all we can to have all the wonderful amenities in Bella Vista that meet the variety of interests and wishes of our property owners. There's a broad variety. Even if we don't use them all, we all enjoy having them here adequately for everyone who wants to use those amenities that we can afford. So we're going to open up the floor. We look forward to all constructive comments and suggestions. I'm going to ask for 3 stipulations. First, we're going to politely ask you to be respectful to us, to the other people in this room, and to the people who are watching on video. Secondly, if someone states something that we know to be false or misleading, we may stop you and correct you. And finally, for each speaker, we're going to ask you to first state if you have attended or viewed the public presentations for both the Valley Task Force and the options, and if you've read our background and position statement from last week. So with that, we'll open up the floor for comments. Please step up to the microphone, state your name and address, and we'll get started.
Okay, my name is Jerry Barron. This whole thing over the last year has really pitted non-golfers against golfers, which isn't a good thing either way. I personally don't think that you should pass the number 2 option that's on here that's been listed. And the reason I'm saying is we haven't had a flood to mitigate that. And meanwhile, while that's running and operating, we are making money. And the weather has created a big problem. I have an annual, my wife has an annual, and we probably have lost over a month of services that we normally would have been playing golf due to the weather. But listening to all this, I don't have any complaints against the board or anything like that. I hope to join the board. But what I wanted to ask, what is the POA's measurement for the threshold for success? I haven't seen that the whole time I've been here. How is it measured? Is it measured in numbers or is it measured in dollars? How's it measured? And that's the question I'll leave you to answer.
Thanks, Jerry. Well, I could ask anybody, how do you measure the success here?
I did ask y'all.
Okay, well, we could all go through the answer. To me, I would say a success would be to have attractive, enjoyable amenities that are adequate for all the people who live here for what they enjoy and that we can best afford. I don't know how you can say, well, it's only money or it's only quality or it's any of this. We do the best we can to balance all of those things. Anybody else on the board is welcome to give their interpretation of that.
Do we have a mission statement for the POA that would define that so that we all would know?
What do we have
I mean, we are a business, we're a nonprofit organization, we're not based on profit, but I think enjoyment does come into factor.
Jerry, we have talked about having a mission statement, and we don't have one. But I formulated one approximately 5 or 6 months ago. Okay, and it was not passed by the board. Okay, but I had a mission, a vision, and I forget what the third one was. All I want to say is I agree with you 100%. We have to define what our mission is as a community and what our mission is as a board. And only then can we have a standard against which we should make judgments and measurements. I fully expect that the board has my statements for their consideration and for their approval. I am running for the board again, and I simply want to say that they've got it already, okay? And I think if nothing else, it forms a point of discussion. And so I think that we can take action by simply resurrecting that and then in full discussion, the board come up with a mission and vision statement that is adequate.
Maybe if you get elected, Jerry, it'll be your first task.
Revenge? Is that a revenge statement?
Shall we go on? My name is Tommy Freitag. live at 25 Pomona Drive. I was at the last regular board meeting last Thursday, and there's a couple of things that I'd like to leave with our board. One of the members last week gave me some numbers on what some of the members might be looking for on the flood problem, and I'd like to just update that a little bit. We went a little bit further and asked a few more members on what they might be liking to see done. The survey that we have conducted since last Thursday, we've got 363 members that answered the survey. That's not a big representative, but it's more than I heard that the board had last Thursday. The board didn't have anybody that they asked. 67% of those surveyed wanted to restore Birchdale to 18 holes and operate with 6 golf courses as before. 9% of those 363 wanted to close Birchdale and Kingswood and build a new course on the Ark Mole land and operate with 5 courses. 6% wanted to close Kingsdale and Birchdale and operate with 4 courses. 18% wanted to close Birchdale and operate with 5 courses. So y'all put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Tommy, can I make a moment?
Sure.
So I received over 100 emails after the position statement was sent out. And this was sent to more than just golfers, it was sent to the entire community. And I tried to respond to every single one. And we tallied what those comments were. And 55% of those were in favor of the position statement. 45 were against. And then some people were neutral and other people provided ideas. But the majority of the emails were in favor of what was sent out.
Would you know if those 100 or whatever it is live here in the village, or they got a lot and live somewhere else?
Both.
I did not ask that question.
That would have been a good question to ask. Where do you live? You live here now?
I think the important thing is that the difference in the two surveys, and both of them lack real sophistication, but one is sent to only golfers and the other is sent to the entire community.
That's right.
And I think that's an important difference.
I think we need to follow up on it also. Let me go on, so I don't want to lose my 3 minutes. As for the upcoming board vote later this evening, each of you volunteered to run as a representative of the membership. And if elected, you would try your best to represent the entire membership and not just a few selected. We members of the POA feel that it is your responsibility to listen to the entire membership to determine their desires on this issue. There is no immediate emergency to vote on the first 2 proposals on the agenda this evening. Number 1, the board should delay this vote this evening. The incoming board should have the responsibility to study the options regarding the valley's flood concern. I would ask that each of you remember the responsibility you accepted when you became a board member to represent all members. Number 2, should you not delay to vote on this evening, I would ask that you each submit a no vote on proposal 1 and a no vote on proposal 2. The board members should also realize that if you vote to close Birchdale Golf Course permanently, it will decrease our assets by $7 million, approximately, or about 13% of our present assets today. A motion should be made.
Tommy, can we stop here for a minute? First of all, we were going to ask people to state if they've read all the statements and the information that we have there, because a number of things you're saying are contrary. So a number of the things you're saying are contrary to the basic. Can this be turned up? I'm going to stop you. A number of the things that you're saying are contrary to the information we provided, the financial information. Have you reviewed all of those things?
I have. What part is it that it's not right?
Well, first of all, as my introductory statement said, I know it's easy to say we want to keep these golf courses, and we've given some information about the cost. Did you poll your people to see if they're willing to pay higher fees to accomplish that, or do you have another idea about how to accomplish that? Because again, I can ask for an airplane, but how does that help us?
Why would they need to pay higher fees to do this?
Have you not read the information?
Sure it is, but this is operating just like we would be. We didn't pay higher fees last year. I'm talking about the $7 million that we're going to reduce our asset.
Okay, let's start.
The value on that land out park to build a new one.
Okay, let's start with this basic premise here, because I've heard it before, that these golf courses are worth or add to our net assets by $7 million. Okay,
They are
the price.
to offset that price.
No, the price, the value of any property or any land is determined by what someone would be willing to pay. Now, the land that these golf courses sit on can be used only for recreational purposes. For any commercial purposes or any other purposes would require the approval of Cooper Communities. Now, so someone could do it, you could buy them to use them as golf courses.
I'm not talking about
However,
selling.
could I please speak? I won't interrupt you. So what is the value of those? You could say you're going to pay $7 million or $14 million, and the combined net operating bottom line of those two is a net operating loss of about $750,000 a year if you don't have the supplement from our assessments. So do you know somebody who would like to come pay $7 million or $14 million for both to acquire a business that has a net operating annual loss of $750,000? So I don't understand how you make this statement of value or that it reduces our value.
Ron,
Doesn't make any sense to me.
I think you're a smart man, and I think you know the difference between book value and replacement value. And that's what we're talking about, replacement value.
All right,
Because
go ahead,
if
finish.
we close that golf course and build another one, it's going to cost us $7 million, so that golf course is worth $7 million.
Okay.
All right, I'm going on. Okay. If you do, excuse me, back up here. A motion should be made by a board member to table proposal number 1 and number 2. Do you want to be remembered as the board that decreased our assets by some $7 million? Thank you.
Of course not, and we certainly also don't want to be remembered as the board who continued to put millions of dollars in until one day we sat and watched it all wash away, and it could have been spent somewhere else. So thanks very much, Tommy. Somebody else?
My name is Roger Scholes. I moved here in '93. To me, 90% of the golf rounds played on Bella Vista courses are paid by people who are 60 years of age or older. It may be higher than that. And the most favorite golf courses, popular golf courses, are Kingswood and Birksdale. The least popular, to my opinion, I think to most people, is Highlands. It's a great golf course, but it's a long ways out there. And it's too hard for our retired people, for most of our retired people. Well, I think the thing about the 9-hole course at Birksdale, we have a need for a 9-hole course. It's been very popular since you opened it up that way. The 9-hole course at Brittany, you know, people don't really want to play that as much as they would like to play Birksdale. So I'd encourage you to at least not close Birksdale 9-hole course at the end of the year. Thank you.
We appreciate that. We also wish the golf courses didn't flood. Yes.
My name is Linda Deshawn. I live at 4.
Closer to the mic.
I can't hear you.
My name is Linda Deshawn. I live at 4 Elwood Circle by the Highlands. I wanted to make a statement for you from this gentleman's comment. Your comment about what measures success is nice, but it needs numbers and it needs measurable statistics that back that up. So when you're putting all of this together, I don't know what those are because I haven't participated in that, but maybe it's the golf course rounds, which are no longer published, I believe. Maybe there's a number of other things in there, cost related to, you know, your other plans. But I am going to be looking at that all the time. That's my background, and those are measurable statistics. And that's what we want, not statements, not pleasant, nice statements. So I urge that we be professional in that manner.
Thank you.
Mrs. Deshawn, let me say something about that, and I'll be brief. On the measurement of success, a lot of this goes back 16 years. We're going on 17 years now without an assessment increase. $24 a month. That is ridiculous. But we can't get people to help us out here. If we had that kind of money over the years, excuse me, sir, I'm speaking. If we had that kind of money over the years, we wouldn't be in this situation. When we took it over from Tommy Bailey, yeah, we had a bunch of money in reserves. Well, hell, he scrimped and saved for God knows how many years to put that into reserves. We've put it back into your amenities. Look at the BV Bar and Grill. I've never seen a place that crowded, day in and day out. Lake Point, doing less well, but it'll get there. We're fixing up Branchwood for you. We fixed up other places for you. Measure of success to me is satisfaction in Bella Vista, and I'm satisfied. And I'm sorry for the 67% of the 376 members you had, but I would rather play the Highlands or Scottsdale or Metfield or a country club any day of the week before I set foot on Bergsdale or Kingswood. And I'm a high handicapper, and I don't care. Fine, fine, you're welcome to your opinions.
Okay,
Your opinions and your handicaps.
We are.
Thank you.
We are, of course, doing the best we can to provide the best golf experience we can for all handicappers. If one of the more difficult golf courses was the one that was flooding, we'd have the opposite thing. It is not that we are against the high handicappers. We just happen to have those floods on those golf courses. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Kathy Keller. I moved over here from Newton County, and so I've seen flooding of the Buffalo River many times in 2010. And not long after I moved here, there was a flood, I guess 2011, that completely covered the golf courses. And then the water went down and they were still there. And then 2 weeks later it happened again. And since then, many more times. But it's just hard for me to imagine that 2 functioning golf courses are going to be destroyed. I mean, to me, it doesn't make sense. You know, if y'all would just fix the banks and the bridges like they say, that was supposedly, we went to the meeting, $3-point-something million. You know, at least the damage from the banks would probably stop. But then the other thing is that I've never heard of anybody mention, if they close Bergsdale and make a park, you know, they had the beautiful pictures of the flowers and the trails and an amphitheater, all that, but I never heard anything about how much that would cost. And if you put all that money into that, aren't you still going to want to fix the banks, or that's all going to disappear? And then the other thing is, if you build all these beautiful parks along 71, Are they gonna be for everybody to use, or just the people of Bella Vista who are POA members? And then if it's gonna be open to the world, then our assessments are gonna go towards a park for the world to use. And if they're not, then how are you gonna control who's there, who uses it?
Let me ask you a question. Did you read our position statement and general proposal from last week?
I don't know if I did or not.
Okay, if you would, I think that will help a lot. What you're asking are questions that are down number 30, number 40, number 50, and we're on question 3. We have always said we're going to do this in stepwise fashion, and there's a lot more information to be learned and gathered as we move forward. So I know that everybody wants to jump to a lot of conclusions about what the whole end game is going to be 10 and 20 years from now, but nobody who's trying to rationally solve this kind of complex problem goes all the way to there. You take it one step at a time, and you decide where should you spend this million, this 2 million, this 3 million, this 5 million right now, according to what kind of larger plan, and then as you find more information. So I would encourage you to go back and read what we wrote. It's a background summary, and it is a general perspective and proposal for solving this in a stepwise fashion.
Well, before you close down Burksdale, wouldn't you have a plan for what you're gonna do with it? I mean, you have to do something with the land, you know?
Well, would you put the money into it and just go ahead and build the bridges and the streams and not know how much it's going to cost? Or would you take it one step at a time as we've proposed? That would be my question.
I would do the bridges and the banks and keep the golf courses there.
Okay, so that is to keep Burksdale open with that 3 million, et cetera. One way that we could accomplish that is what I said before. If we assume there is going to be no damage and everybody was willing to pay another $11 per green fee, or if we assume there's going to be some damage, it would be $15 per green fee to keep that open and make the investments that you just recommended to keep it open. That would be an option. Do you believe that that would be acceptable to people to pay $11 to $15 more to play on Burksdale? And do you believe that would not cause the rounds to go down on that golf course? Because if it did, then those economics don't work. So again, we all feel the same way you do. We wish that this was an easy choice, there were no floods, and we could keep it open. But in order to do the things, again, I can wish for lots of things and say I prefer this, but how do we pay for it?
Well, I came to a meeting, I don't know, maybe a year ago. Well, it was after the flood. And they were estimating $500,000 to fix Burksdale. And in that meeting, y'all voted unanimously to spend $2-point-something million to buy little pieces of property that we rented for $1 a year. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, well, if you have that much money, you could have fixed the golf courses.
Okay, let's go back to that issue for a moment since you brought it up. There were a number of properties there that were in places in our parking lots and all kinds of things. And it was clear that Cooper Communities was interested in divesting those. If they did not divest them to us, then someone else could take them. And you could have, for example, how about a terrific business model that I now own the parking lot for Kingswood Burksdale. I now own this many holes on Scottsdale and other things, and what's the fee that I'm going to charge now? So this is just an issue for the long-term sustainable. It's a separate issue. But I think we've covered all the things you brought up, and I tried to address those in the beginning, and obviously not very effectively. But I think we should, unless you have another specific point, we should allow somebody else to have a comment.
No, I just think we should not close either golf course.
I understand, but as I said at the beginning, a wish list is fine, but we have to deal in reality. So, okay, would somebody else like to?
People have different realities.
Alternative facts.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Ron Corn. I want to thank the POA board members for their service in a thankless job. The board tells us that golf inventory exceeds golf demand now and projected. But we as members can't verify since golf rounds are not published. Plus, we are not made aware of management's future plan for golfing. Let's see the projections. Golfing continues.
Sir, this information is in, I asked for everybody to say if they've reviewed what is out there, and that, all of this that you're asking for is in the background information we've provided for everyone. So I guess I'll ask you, have you reviewed the Valley Task Force, our options, and our statement from last week?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so I guess you missed those parts.
Golfing continues to be the largest revenue generator of amenity users, but here we are considering turning a 6 million, maybe it's a 7 million after the previous discussion.
All right, sir, I'm going to interrupt you again for a moment, because again, that's a wrong and misleading statement. Golf generates revenue, but not as much as it costs to run the golf courses. So it costs more.
I didn't say that. I said it's the
So-
largest revenue generator of an
That's
amenity.
fine, but if you say it, you have to say all of it. Yes, it is the largest revenue generator. It is also the largest expense. So we take for every golf course
getting into that
each
later.
year. Okay.
Why don't you let the man finish
Won't
his
you let me
statement
finish?
before you start correcting him? Yeah. You want us to,
Thank you.
respect to be shown, you show respect for the people that are coming up here.
Let me repeat that last question. State, golfing continues to be the largest revenue generator of amenity users, but here we are considering turning a $6 million golfing property into one that is entirely an expense. Therefore, it is imperative that we members see the analysis that compares the net revenue of Burksdale that includes ongoing cleanup and repairs at either an 18 or 9-hole course compared to the same repurposed acreage that generates zero revenue, requires build-out, and demands continuous flooding cleanup and repairs. This assumes that the board has done this kind of comparative analysis. Rumors abound about a repurposing partner. Making a decision at this time betting on a possible partner is foolhardy. Delay the decision until the perhaps partner and the POA can announce concurrently their intentions or decide based on the aforementioned analysis of the $6 million property in question. Lastly, Chairman Stratton must stop talking about developing Arkmore. Arkmore is not the current issue. This rhetoric only serves to fuel an already tense situation and infuriates people even more. This is not the expected behavior of a responsible chairman. Thank you.
Let me ask you what rhetoric you're talking about.
That we're going to open up Arkmore as a golf course.
What makes you think I stated some kind of that as a rhetoric?
You did to my wife and I when we left JJ's 2 meetings ago. That was the first thing you mentioned to us.
Well,
And I've heard you mention it before.
of course we've mentioned it. That is an option. But what we have
It's
stated.
not the current option. It's
Well-
not the current situation that we're discussing right now. It's not the current issue.
No, of course not. So what we have said, before we could even think about Arkmo being possible, we're on step 1 out of 40. And step 1, and that we're voting on tonight, is very simple. All we're doing is saying, let's do
I
an
understand
independent
that. You're the one that mentions Arkmore.
We said
Arkmore.
we're going to do an independent analysis to have an independent source say what is the golfing demand in Bella Vista. And if the golfing demand expected for the future is only for 4 golf courses, it's very difficult to say you would ever do anything more. If the golfing demand, they say, is for 5 golf courses, then a lot more analysis could go into it to say the cost benefit between keeping Kingswood open, for example, or doing an Arkmo would have to be done by some future board, and I'm certainly not going to be there. So it's very difficult to try to put forth all of the options to people or pretend like some options are not there. We simply have to say, of all the options we have, that is one of them. But nobody would say, we're going to go do this right now or push for this until it's been properly analyzed, and that's long, long from now.
Agree?
Okay, then I guess we're agreeing.
Yeah, so don't talk about it anymore. Thank you.
Okay, I'll pretend like ARCMA doesn't exist.
All right.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Angela Robinson. I've lived here since 1996. I have 2 junior golfers that I'm out at Highlands all the time. In Scottsdale, we play all the courses, and I applaud the golf maintenance people, the golf staff, and I love golf. However, knowing what is coming down, they don't even know what they're doing with the dam at the Bella Vista Lake, and watching the floods every year, and I just see money going down the drain. And I know that what you as a board are having to face is very difficult. And to close Burksdale, Kingswood hurts me because it is a flat course, it's walkable. But the amount of money that is spent over and over and over again, I would still like to see a new activity center. And I'm in favor of whatever y'all decide, because y'all are looking and making very hard decisions. And I just want to thank y'all for doing all the engineering and all the stuff. And I know it's hard, and sometimes it's hard to pull off a bandage. So, rip it off.
Thank you very much.
That got the biggest claps. I don't understand. I don't understand. That doesn't make any sense.
Hold the microphone.
Short people. My name is Mary Lou Frost, and I'm a longtime Bella Vista from afar. My folks retired here in the 70s. My children grew up knowing this and coming for family vacations, so I got the range of all that we have been and, you know, the aim of where they're going. We finally got down here in 2014. Golfing immediately became not one of the things we were going to do, and that was health issues. Happens to all of us. The thing I wanted to point out is I did read the hydrology study, and it's scary. It really is scary, because it's not something that man is real good at controlling. And having lived all over this United States, I've seen communities struggle with rerouting rivers, bank establishment or stabilization, and it is costly. It's costly if you do it up front to prevent it from happening, and it's really costly when you're trying to rebuild after the damage has been done. With the area of Northwest Illinois, you know, and I hate to say I'm kind of a Yankee, but I'm not a Yankee, just happen to be up there, have had terrible floods along the Des Plaines and the Fox River. Never before until the last about 5 years. They're having to look at moving schools off of floodplain, where developers looked the other way and said, oh, we're gonna build on this. So we're lucky we don't have a lot of permanent, actually structures on there. To pour money into that bank, after looking at that hydrology study, the possible pool of that creek eventually could look like a spur of the Mississippi River. It is really, and it's possible. We may go a year with, oh, we're going to get drought again, and the next thing you know, we get 22 inches in 24 hours, and we're losing like Branchwood. So I really like to see, I think you're right on target to find out how many rounds of golf are really being played, how much of it's coming from us here in Bella Vista, and how much is the advertisement pulling in with the special card deals, to show people that it is a stabilizing thing, if not nationally, a downturn in the number of good costs. And it's just the economy. It's the economy and this emphasis on family structure Dad can't be out on the golf course the whole weekend. And mom's not gonna be happy with the kids, if you have that going. So I think you're right on target. And I do appreciate the golfers. It's hard to accept any change. Nobody is gonna force it down your throats. I think the discussion has been open. A lot of it's been on Facebook, and you're right, there's a lot, and there you go, he didn't read it, he's not even living here, you kind of have to sort through that stuff. But my hats are off to you guys. You have a very difficult situation, and the next board has a very difficult situation. But I do wanted to give you guys a plus and say, yeah, you are on the right track. And now I'm a real naturalist, so I love the idea of a rain garden and, putting plants along there to do what we can. But eventually, there's too much water, and you can't pave it all over. That rain is going to go someplace, and it's headed here. And even though I'm up on a ridge, there's time that ditch gets pretty thin and wants to head right to the side of my house. So I wouldn't say I would never flood, not something possible. So thank you.
Thank you.
I really appreciate that you read the report. The report is available on our website. Ron referenced that. And we're actually able to see how many people have clicked on those reports and viewed them. And unfortunately, the number is very low. So I encourage everybody to read these reports and go through those presentations and so forth to get educated. I spoke with an individual the other day, and I'm not going to use their name or anything like that, and they were a little bit riled up at me. And the question, I asked them 3 questions. Did they go to the March meeting? No. Did they go to the April meeting? No. Did they read the report that was available on our website? No. That's a challenge.
Put more pictures in it. On your position statement, item number 6, very last item, says that we have to develop alternate funding to take care of any proposal that we vote on. We need to develop alternate funding to cover any proposal that we approve. Has that been done?
Step 7. It's step 7. It's down there.
The position statement, last page, last item.
I think the way Ron would probably answer it is we're talking about step 1, 2, and 3 tonight, and that's further down the list.
Well, it says all of the steps above. For any of the steps above, you have to have.
Okay, well, why don't you read that statement so everybody will know?
The board and management should develop a financial master plan that includes all of the above, with specific funding proposals from a combination of redirected cash flow, potential partners, potential loan instruments, which is scary, I added that, and other potential revenue sources.
Okay, what we intended by that is just to make sure that everybody, this is a long-term process. So whatever our ultimate solution is going to be, we have to explore all possible ways to pay for it. So that just lists sort of a laundry list of potential things to do, and we have a number of activities going on.
Everything we're voting on tonight's paid for.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Just,
I mean, the answer to that
Yes,
is
the
yes.
answer to your question, yes.
Yes.
For all 3, it's yes.
Yeah,
Let
we're not voting on anything we can't pay for. Yes, that's very clear.
excuse me, I'd like to interject that we have formed a financial committee that you may want to comment on about the membership and what their responsibilities are. But we are taking steps to make sure that that whatever we do has undergone thorough consideration of all the current financial resources, the future financial resources, the revenue streams, and so on and so forth. That committee is currently, are you still meeting?
We're still meeting.
That committee is still meeting, has had 4 or 5 meetings, 3 or 4 meetings so far?
I think we're at 3.
Okay, but it is being done. I want to assure you of that.
what consideration has been given to the Kingsdale clubhouse if we close both golf courses?
Define what consideration?
Well, you're obviously going to put Papa Mike out of business. So what are you going to do with that building? And
Well, first of all, be clear, there is no vote on the table tonight, and there is no proposal at this time to close the Kingswood Golf Course. That is, again, step 40 from a long process,
if we
so
only
that
close
is not...
Birchdale, you're still going to hamper Papa Mike. I mean, he's humping right now. You're gonna
I wish
hurt
it
him
didn't
bad.
flood on Birksdale.
I'm sure he does too.
Yeah, all of us do.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Good evening. Billy Beveridge. A few things. Mr. Judson, you mentioned that you received about 150 input. Okay. Last meeting, Mr. Bruce here gave me the package that you guys looked at, you know, or handed out, and I took it home and dissected it. There was 33 emails in there, and out of those 33 emails, there was 16 of them said, don't make any decision. We still got a lot of work to do.
The percentage that I quoted earlier today, the 55% in favor, was quoted as of about 3 hours ago when I had finished with the last email.
Okay, so that must have been the other 117 that I didn't get. But,
And they're all on my desk, and you're welcome to them.
okay.
I have full disclosure. You can come down. We can come after the meeting, and I can give you them.
Oh,
I have
okay.
no
Well,
problem showing to you.
I'm just saying that I think we're premature here in trying to make a vote on a decision that hasn't really been completely thought out. I know you guys have done a lot of work. You've got a lot of data. You know, I've been to both hydrology study presentations. I was at the 410 meeting. Mr. Stratton and Mr. Justin, you both made mention that we have plenty of time to make a decision. But yet, when we start giving our input, it's all pushback. What's a number? You know, what are you willing to pay? You know, I agree. We need an assessment increase. I voted for them. But you know, if we get an assessment increase, are we going to close more golf courses? You know, that's not what we want. You know, I just think the board is premature to take. We need to take items 1 and 2 off the agenda or vote no for them until the next board, and we make a good firm decision based on public input and decisions. I mean, you know, data that you guys have developed. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Just take it out of the, take it out of the
just take it
holder.
out of the holster.
Just pull it out.
Thank you. My name is Dusty. My name is Dusty Meads. I live at 26 Tiverton Circle Drive. I moved here with my husband in 2002. We followed our children who were transferred. My son-in-law was transferred to Roger. He took our daughter, so we followed them. I wanted to live, after we looked around in Rogers and Bentonville, and then I discovered Bella Vista, I wanted to look nowhere else. This is the absolutely, as far as I'm concerned, beautiful place to live. It is beautiful Bella Vista. In 2002, I created a fan site, a website called beautifulbellavista.com, and I absolutely want nothing but good to happen here. And I'd like to see the growth slow down, but that's being selfish. I have to admit that the board, since Tommy left, has done a fantastic job. I was so sad watching everything run down, the docks, the fishing docks, the golf courses, all of the amenities were just running down and not being taken care of. That is not the case anymore. You guys have done a terrific job over the last, 7, 8 years. And I would love to see it remain that way. However, it was yesterday, or the day before yesterday, I was sent an email and an email address Just a gentleman, I believe he's a golfer. I was sent the email by a golfer. I am not a golfer. And I sent the email on to my email group, and I went onto Facebook, onto Bella Vista Neighborhood, which has over 8,000 members. And I posted the 4 options, and yes, I have been to your site and I have read everything. And I posted the 4 options, and I posted, I actually created a page, listed my thoughts about it, and then put in the address that people were supposed to respond to, and the 4 options. I'm afraid, John will attest to this, I'm afraid I added another golf course because they kept saying 5 golf courses and 6 golf courses and leaving poor little Brittany 9-hole golf course out. So I kept putting them back in. So my numbers are a little bit higher. But I posted all that, and I posted the email, and I told people to send things. Now, I can guarantee you that the people who are sending things to that person, and I'm not even sure who the person is, but they were going to present it to the board. Is he here today? Okay, so he's getting all these emails of people's opinions on the 4 options. Now, I don't think they're on the table today, but they're going to be on the table. And you're going to get a lot of emails through that because it then I put it on Facebook, and there are over 200 comments on there. True, some of them are off the wall, but most of them aren't us. Most of them are members. And while I'm at it, I'm kind of out of breath. I want to apologize to the people who spoke before. I had to leave and go up the 2nd tier to my car and get my phone and call my husband and tell him I'll be late. This is such a crowd here today. Yes, you've had these meetings. Yes, you've been trying to get people to attend these meetings. Well, I think it's just been recently that it's been getting across. I mean, look how many people are here today. So I think if you let this go forward another month, you're going to have a lot more people contacting you and giving their opinions. Now, my opinion, yeah, we flood. I mean, first of all, whether you believe in global warming or not, I do think that has something to do with it. But definitely Bentonville and Rogers and Fayetteville and all the people that have moved to Northwest Arkansas, further south where the water's coming from, has definitely made a difference here. Those golf courses are going to continue to flood. I don't have a problem with closing Burksdale and using the money that we would pay on Burksdale flooding toward Kingsdale or Kingswood, and use the money that way for fixing Kingswood. Make less sand traps. Oh no, it costs a lot of money to replace those sand traps. Wash all the sand out. Make make the golfing a little easier. Maybe put it in some areas where the flood doesn't go quite so bad. I'm not sure of that. The experts can figure that out. I am totally against ARCMO. I see no sense in spending $8 million, $7 million, $8 million to build another golf course. I have searched the internet, and if any of the board members care to search, I don't think there's a city of 30,000 people anywhere that has more than 1 or 2 golf courses. We have 4, if you don't count the 9-hole, if you take out Kingsdale and Burksdale and Kingswood. We have 4 plus a 9-hole, so we have 5. 5 for 30,000 people. And how many people did you say play golf? 7,000? And do they play every day? Some do. Some play every day. But we have plenty of golf courses. We don't need ARCMO.
Here's a couple quick numbers for you.
Okay.
5,541 property owners played at least 9 holes of golf in 2017. If you drop that down to 20 rounds of golf in a year, which is not a lot, the number drops down to 1,400. So, in other words, a large number of rounds are played by 1,400 people.
But I think they can do that on 4 18-hole golf courses and 1 9-hole golf course. And that's if you get away take Burksdale and Kingsdale out. If you take just Burksdale out, now you've got 5 golf courses and a 9-hole course.
And that's exactly one of the proposals on tonight, is to use a professional company that does, everybody has a lot of opinions about golf courses. We're proposing to get a professional company to analyze the golf demand both now and in the future of Bella Vista. So it's less opinion and more expertise.
And yes, I think we need that before you start closing courses, before you move along. So, and I think you just need to give it a little more time to get more people to give more input.
Thank you.
Is the way I feel. Thank you.
My name is Lou Wallman. I live at 9 Harbury Circle. Yesterday I attended a meeting. It was yesterday at 4 o'clock. Right here in this office right here. Did anybody know about that meeting? You didn't know about the meeting? Okay. It was the golf committee and they were talking about this right here. And Tom, you were suggesting to the committee that they take out Burksdale and also Kingswood. We had 2 board members there. Did you know about that?
No, I didn't. We didn't talk about Kingswood. We only
Yes,
talked about
yes, you did.
Burksdale.
You were there.
Yes.
You were there. That I don't like that because that's you're tricking me. Okay, and I don't like to be tricked. That's a secret meeting. I run onto it by accident. I was the only one there, along with a friend of mine.
So Lou, let me interrupt you just for a moment. So that meeting was called by the golf committee, by the golf committee chairperson. I was invited, and I don't know why the community was not, but I was invited, and select board members were.
Let me ask her. What time did you call for the meeting? I'm not sure. No, I know, but you know about it. Right here. What time did you call for the meeting?
Day before, or 2 days before.
Did you notify the public?
Pardon, sir?
Did you notify the public?
It was, I notified the golf committee. We decided to hold the meeting because we have not formed recommendations in response to the board's recommendations.
But nobody knew about it. Okay, let's go on to something else.
But hold on. So the other comment that you made was about Kingswood, and so what I have in front of me here is the recommendations from the golf committee.
You suggested that.
And all of these recommendations, I don't want to steal Bill's thunder, but down towards the end, it says, underline, Kingswood would remain open until such time as the board takes further action on the golf needs analysis. So there was no conversation about closing Kingswood for years.
Okay, the next thing I come up with and I heard that I didn't like is, if you look on 1 on the sheet there, sentence 3, it says partner. Who's that partner?
We have talked to multiple different partners, some of which have asked us to remain confidential, but the most obvious partner is Northwest Arkansas Trailblazers. And that was quoted in the position statement.
Okay.
And they're the company that has installed the Razorback Greenway.
It makes me nervous when you say partner because that could go to anybody. And you're trying to vote on something that doesn't have a name.
Yeah, but we included...
It's like a blank sentence with, I'll fill it in later.
Yes, but we also included in that position statement a quote from him with his title and his position and his the company that he works for.
Also, I'd like to make a recommendation that you let the new board vote on this and not this current board. I think you guys have been a little bit influenced by some of this stuff. I think the new members should be able to get involved in this because you're going to dump this in their lap. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gene Young. I live 24 Pease Drive. We moved here in '94. And I would agree that we do need assessment increase. We haven't had one for many years. But it's awful hard for me to understand how we can ask for an increase in assessment when we put all of our money in such beautiful things that we have here in the country club, at Lake Point, at Scottsdale and all that. It would be hard to ask for an increase in assessment with all this spending money.
Thank you.
I just want to tag on to something that gentleman just brought up.
Wait till you get to the mic.
I'm here.
Name and address.
Mike Deshawn, 4 Elwood Circle, Bella Vista, 13 years. I sent Tom an email, and I copied all the board members on it. I have read your information. I have looked at the videos. I have attended meetings. I have read your summary. My question was, I attended a meeting. Excuse me, I got a balance problem here. If I may. No, that's all right. A meeting, I read the minutes. The minutes of the golf committee from their meeting on April the 11th.
Feel free to, you can sit in your chair and.
Indicated no discussion had really taken place on the committee regarding these recommendations about. My point of view is the committee is supposed to do the research, check public opinion, make a recommendation to the board makes the ultimate decision. Nothing seemed to have been done as of the 11th. I then attended the April 18th meeting, the open meeting, the committee. I specifically asked the question, what have they done? Can you stay awake while I'm talking? I would prefer it if you wouldn't close your eyes while I'm talking to you. I specifically asked this question on the 18th. I got the answer, we have not had time to go through it. The 20th comes out with this recommendations. Today, the agenda calls for voting on recommendations with your committee's recommendations already being made. So somehow, this committee came up with these recommendations to support what I have heard you talking about what you want to do. This committee somehow has automatically rubber stamped that for you. You put it on the agenda to vote on tonight. You said at that meeting last week, Tom, no votes were planned. Check your agenda on Friday. So that's when it came in. I guess what I'm getting at, hold your question.
I responded to your email today, and
Yeah,
I gave you.
You missed the complete point. All you talked about was the vote. I'm talking about what work has been done to evaluate this. And it's been very, very untransparent.
You're making a claim against a statement that I did not say.
What's that?
Ruth, jump in.
The question was asked, were we going to vote on Thursday, and that was the work session. And 3 of us I know said no.
No,
we made it very
I
plain.
agree with you. That's what I heard you say.
And then somebody said, are we going to vote next week?
Yes.
And that's when the same people said, we have not seen an agenda, therefore we can't answer that either way.
Right. I'm having a hard time considering everything that's going on. This committee automatically, within 2 days after apparently not doing any work, has agreed with everything that you guys have recommended. So what I'm saying is this transparency nowadays is very important. I don't think you guys are being very transparent with this. I think that there's a, I don't want to call it conspiracy by any means, but I think there's an agenda here that the general public is not aware of. So that's all I have to say.
Just leave it on.
Thank you.
I'd like to interject one thing here and address Mr. DeShawn's concern, and it may not be to the detail he agrees, but I'm a liaison to the golf committee. I was at that meeting yesterday, and the other liaison and myself in no way influenced the decision that was made by that golf committee. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. Susan is secretary, she can confirm that. Bill is chairman. There was no undue influence by myself and the other liaison member. That's a fact. Thank you.
I'll be presenting that when I present the minutes. I'm going to make a statement about that.
Okay, would anybody else like to address the board?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'm Mike Moles. I live at 9 Tanyard Lane. I've been in Bella Vista for 16 years. One of the things that I'm concerned about in closing the golf courses along the highway is the aesthetics of that highway, and the number of cars that travel up and down that highway is one of the greatest advertisements for Bella Vista. And to do something that would detract from that, I think would be a mistake. I think the golf courses along the highway, along with being aesthetically pleasing and a draw for our community, that they should be protected. If we need to spend some money on flood control, let's spend some money on flood control. The other courses are great courses, but how many cars drive by Scottsdale? How many cars drive by Park and Hole? These cars drive by Kingswood, Burksdale, and the Country Club. And this is really one of the things that drew me to Bella Vista, is just driving up and down that highway. I know of no other thing that is discouraging to me than to drive by some abandoned property. So I encourage you to consider this and consider the fact that if we have to, we'll just call that part of our advertising budget for Bella Vista.
I want to assure everybody that one of the first statements in the option sheet and most of our paperwork says that the board is committed to maintaining, Ron uses the word front yard, I use the word greenway. We have every intention of maintaining that area as an attractive amenity. Exactly what that amenity is going to be, we'll have to, is the biggest decision that really faces us. But there is no intention of that amenity becoming anything other than attractive.
When I get the arguments just as passionate for the people that say we have too many golf courses, just close it, I say, and what? Let the grass grow and the cows graze? We're not going to do that. This is a complex thing, and nobody would ever suggest. We understand that is the beautiful, as we said, front yard or greenway, and we have to find a way to keep it spectacular looking. Yes.
Susan Wyatt, former board member back in 2009, 10, I think. And at that point in time, Ron, you had addressed me about closing Scottsdale, and this was going to be your passion, to close Scottsdale.
What?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, Susan. I love Scottsdale, and I would never
Obviously
suggest
you do,
something.
because you spent millions of dollars on it, but that was When you came out of a board meeting in 2009 and you addressed me as a board member, you said, my first thing to do was to close Scottsdale.
Okay, I'm sorry. I've never said anything like that in my life, but okay, continues.
Okay, well, I made it up. I'm sorry. You have an agenda of your own, and it was wrong, and it was all this money we spent on Scottsdale that you said you wanted to close back in 2009 when I was on the board, and it's gone. Nobody wants to play Scottsdale anymore.
Rounds are up by 10% since the renovations were made, and we spent $600,000 on renovations, not millions.
Exactly, and nobody wants to play there anymore. So what's your point?
That's why the
So
rounds are up
most popular
10%.
golf course now.
Not true.
Our rounds are up by 10%.
Okay, whatever.
Trust me, Scottsdale is one of the things we hear a lot. There are people that don't like it because there are a few hilly holes out there. When you look at the Scottsdale golf course, you have the front nine is very flat and easy to play. 10 and 11 are flat. 11 is one of the hardest par fours in the village, and I don't like the hole either. I don't like 12 at all, and we're going to try to fix that one of these days. 13 and 14 are tough. 15 is downhill, and the other 3 holes are very flat. Scottsdale is a very friendly golf course with the exception of 3 holes. It is, with the exception of 3 holes. Now, give me a second here. And it is a fun golf course to play, and Tom's right. Our rounds are up 10%. We spent very little money out there rebuilding collars and bunkers and enhancing the clubhouse, which has done gangbusters. So it's up.
How much money did you spend on Scottsdale?
I don't remember the total that we
Wow.
spent on it. 600,000, I think, is what we spent.
$600,000.
600,000 on the golf course.
$600,000. Yeah. And then we are $2.3 million in debt with golf courses, and you spend $600,000 on a course that nobody wants to play at.
Okay, not nobody wants to play there. A lot of people want to play there. And let me throw another thing out there. Golf courses are like people, and they're like your house. We all age, and we have to do something to keep those golf courses in shape. We spent very little out there, and our director of maintenance is one of the best in the business. I support him in everything that he does. He's been around this U.S. for a long time. Very good. Our golf courses are in much better shape than they were 3 or 4 years ago before Keith came here. And one of my goals as a board member is to make sure our golf courses are in the best shape that we can for our members. It takes money to do that, and you have to spend money on a regular basis in order to maintain them. You would never let your house go without being painted once in a while, would you? So $600,000 on an investment like Scottsdale is very little. Is very little. We have other places we need to spend it. We've done the same at Dogwood. We've done it at Highlands. Aren't all our bunkers in a lot better shape now than they were? They all are wonderful now, aren't they? We don't have rocks out there that we have to hit through when we were in a bunker. They're easier to make. Say again? This has been a tough year. We won't blame all of that on it's been weather. Okay, please make your point then.
My point is, you've wasted a lot of money on Scottsdale because people don't want to play there anymore.
And that's
Okay,
why the
okay.
rounds are up 10%?
So to be clear, I've always loved Scottsdale. I still love Scottsdale. We rejuvenated it for a modest amount, and it is extremely popular with players, and I think it's got the most rounds of any course we have right now. Was anything else, Susan? Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Ron, moving on.
Okay. Okay. Dick.
My name is Dick Hartman. I live at 3 Milford Lane. I've been a permanent full-time resident since 2005. I originally bought property here in 1983. I think Bella Vista is the most beautiful place in the world to live. I appreciate what the board has done with
increasing the amenities, the country club, Lake Point, which has a ways to go to become a success, in my opinion.
We're going to have 47 weddings this year.
Well, I've been married for over 47 years, so that's...
So I guess we can't plan on one from you this time, Dick, or what? You want to make it 48? Does your wife know?
Time on your 50th there.
But I appreciate all the work the board has done in beautifying the community and making it a more beautiful place to live. I have some problems. I don't think you have an agenda with this golf course program. I realize that the floods may increase with the development upstream, which is something to really consider. I have a problem with the flood study numbers for the 12 different repairs that need to be done, the 5 bridges and the 7 stream banks. I contacted the company that built the bridge for us at the country club between holes, what used to be 1 and 2 are now 10 and 11. And I think one of their sales reps contacted you, Tommy, and you went over something with regard to what that cost might be for a new bridge.
Yeah, I sat down with the representative from Big R Construction, and we went through it, and it's possible that we may be able to save a little bit of money. When I'm talking a little bit of money, I'm talking maybe 10–15% off of the estimate that was provided to us by the hydrologist. And he suggested that by narrowing the piers just a little bit so that the span would be less. I'm getting a little bit specific. Okay. So it's possible that we might be able to save a little bit.
So when you tell them the length of the bridge that you want, the width of the bridge, and the weight capacity, they can give you a price, right? There's no engineering that we need to hire to get it done?
Oh, you still need to have engineering because you have to build the abutments. You still have...
I've done a little construction in my day.
So if what I encourage you to do is call Big R Construction back, and I asked this question. I said, is it accurate to say that the bridge itself is approximately half of the total cost of construction? And he confirmed that. When you talk about all the permitting that you have to get and the abutments that you have to build. Now, at one of the meetings, you asked if we could recycle the abutments, and he said you would not be able to because no engineer would ever sign off on those. I think John Nettles said that in the meeting. Right. But second of all, the dynamics of the bridge are different enough. And the last one is, how would you recycle the abutments at Kingswood when you'd have to close down the golf course for 1.5 years because you know, well, look at it this way. What the idea is if you were to replace those bridges, you would build a new one right next to the old one. So you wouldn't have to close. At Kingswood, if you recycled, you're building the bridge in the exact same location, so you'd have to close that golf course for approximately 1 year to 1.5 years.
It takes 1.5 years to put in a bridge?
So, from start to finish, it takes approximately 18 months from start to finish to build a bridge that is going over the waters of the United States. Because of all the permitting that you have to get.
Okay, but you don't, while you're waiting to get a permit, you don't have to close the golf course.
I agree with that, but you're still going to have it closed.
You don't need to close the golf course.
It's still going to be closed for a significant amount of time. But regardless, the abutments can't be recycled. You just can't do that. So that's a large expense. So
but we don't know the cost of that until we get a contractor to give us a cost.
Okay, so
you know, we can't make a decision based on some company out of Kansas City that guesses what's gonna happen.
No,
what's
they're
needed.
not guessing. These are experts in the field. And the fact that I sat down with the representative from Big R Construction that you asked me to call, and I sat down with that gentleman, and we went line item by line item with the estimate, and he said, yeah, I might be able to save 10 to 15% if I make these adjustments by shortening up the span, because the span is the critical issue. But then the question is a 10 to 15% savings, does that change the math dramatically enough? And Ron brought this up at the last meeting. If you save 10 or 20,000 here, well, that's what you want to do. You want to do everything you can, and that's why you hired me. But does that change the math on the equation? Does it change the critical question? And I would argue no.
Well, okay, so we can save a little bit of money by doing those things, but we're still gonna have floods, right? So that's an unknown. So let's go shopping for a crystal ball so we can determine what the next floods are gonna be. I guess that's,
3 bids?
you know. So the decision to close Burksdale, the existing 9 that we're operating right now at the end of December, why are we doing that? Why not just keep it open until the next flood makes it inoperable?
The general concept on it was that we put a first priority to do the things to the country club. With what we've done with this building, it's kind of our flagship facility, and we think it hasn't gotten as bad of a flooding, and we've already done quite a few things in the country club. So the thought was, let's put a first priority on that. Now, the money has to come from somewhere. So we make investments in any golf course that's open or any 9 holes that's open. So if we were to shift those resources from even the existing 9 holes of Burksdale, where we have people operating heavy equipment, where we put money in, as we pointed out, every golf course that we operate, we take money from assessments, a little less than $400,000 a year from assessments, and we put them into that golf course. Now, we're working on the real details of exactly how much we can save, but it's in the range of $200,000 that we can save on that, and be putting those resources, both money and people, into doing the things at Country Club that when the next big flood comes, we're less likely to lose the Country Club. If we're not able to do that, and you say we wait until it washes away Burksdale, it might also wash away Country Club. So that's the general concept of why we would do that. And you could say, why not do it right now? Well, it's going to take 6 months for the board, the next board, I won't be there, but the people who work on this to say, what exactly do we want to do to the country club? There's a general concept in place of what you can do to kind of harden the country club and protect it. And once that is all done and a full plan is finished and approved by the next board, then we find those resources to shift away to prioritize to the country club. So that, I think, answers your question of the general concept of why it came about on those dates.
I'm not sure I understand. How does leaving Burksdale open prevent the country club from being flooded?
Once we have a plan for the work to do on Country Club, you need money and people to do that work. And so the idea is you're finding that those money and people from other places to shift over to be doing, instead of mowing greens and taking care of 9 holes of Burksdale, they're doing the work on Country Club, as well as the money we put in to support that on the Country Club to help protect it whenever the next flood comes. And hopefully it doesn't come before that work is done.
Okay, I played Dogwood today. We're trying to cut down expenses. When Keith first came here, one of the first meetings where he introduced himself, he talked about having a GPS tracker on golfers so that we could determine areas of golf courses that were never used. People didn't go there, they were out of the realm of their normal play. So then we could cut down our mowing, we wouldn't mow those areas, which sounded like a good idea. But I see a lot of areas being mowed that that there's no need to. I mean, if we're that short of money, we could do a lot of things. Today at Dogwood, my green tag on my cart was checked 3 times by 5 different people. There were a twosome came and checked it. Maybe one of them was in training, I don't know, on the front 9. And then on the back 9 it happened again. And then another person alone.
Dick, I know that there's a complaint about the green tags, and here's the fact that of all this work we did, we found that we had a large number of people, particularly among a lot of our golf groups, who had very sophisticated, organized ways within groups of sneaking a lot of people on the golf course. Now, what we want to do is protect the interests of people like you who do not do that and who pay your way, and we make sure that we collect the revenue that we need to maintain the golf courses. So golf operations came up with this system. I know it's something new and different, and I know people complain about it, but if you have another system to help protect your interest, I'm sure they'd be happy to listen to it. Patrick, you have something?
I'd just like to say, I appreciate your taking the time to speak with us, but I would hope that you would focus on the topics that we're currently talking about and not drift off into other things like the tagging system. I appreciate the fact that it may cause problems and we may be wasting some money, but that's not the issue that we're talking about tonight.
Well, what brought this to my mind was the fact that we're going to lose a couple of golf courses, maybe due to lack of money, and so the money issue does come into play here.
Did you bother to take that up with Darryl Morgan and ask him why there were so many people checking it? Because we've hired, as far as I know, 1 player assistant at each course.
Maybe an
Each
accounting.
day.
Could have been
It's not
accounting.
been accounting out there.
Yep.
Well,
But it would've been
I know other
5 different
people have had this.
Would have been 5 different people.
Okay.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been.
Dick, do you have any other big picture items for the big challenges we're facing right now?
Well, just stop the flooding.
Okay.
We'll try.
We'll try to make sure that, I would recommend that everybody, when you cast your vote for the board members, be sure to vote for those with the capacity for stopping the flooding, and all of our problems will be solved. So, all right. If there are no other comments, we'll move on to the Joint Advisory Committee reports. Start with Lakes. Who's doing Lakes tonight?
I believe I am doing Lakes tonight.
Okay. Good answer.
And they didn't turn in their minutes. The Lakes Department had quite a spirited discussion about the fish farming operation and how successful it's been. I believe and don't quote me on these numbers, but we put 250,000 fry in the fish ponds for sockeye, and they're not quite sure how many carpy there are in that pond, but it is a substantial number. One day this week they were out there counting them somehow. Not quite sure how you count little tiny fish, but that's their job. We expect on the sockeye that we will end up with somewhere in the half of that number, that 125,000 that will go to the lakes. This will be our first successful year of getting our own fish out there in numbers. We do expect a small donation of fish from, or sale of fish, I should say, from the DNR. And next year, we hope to have our first breeding of walleye. And if anybody's interested, there's a video out there floating around Facebook, and Rick would be happy to tell you all you want to know about growing baby fish.
One other thing they covered, the Lakes Committee is preparing a recommendation to the board for the board to consider the lowering of Lake Windsor this coming winter, following a similar format as we did this last year with Loch Lomond and Avalon, where the lake would go down mid-November and come back up towards the end of February.
All right, great. Recreation.
I think that's, oh.
We appreciate you waiting patiently to give your report.
And thank you for being here, Gary.
Yeah.
You weren't out personally, but.
Yeah, you think you are.
Let's see, I've got about 4 pages.
Good. Read them slowly.
Well, I'll get to the point. We had quite
Okay.
a few things that happened at the Recreation Committee. We did add a new member. Judy Griffin had moved on and now works for the POA. So we brought on Chris Stockman. He's from Chicago. Been here about 6 months. He's already actively involved in a lot of the amenities and the things that we do.
I know.
And from the amenity news standpoint, we all know that Branch was not closed for a while. Reardon Tennis has been very busy, and there's a lot more events that are coming up there as well. With Loch Lomond Park all as well, there's a lot of people out there playing softball or baseball at any given time. Metfield's looking good. The classes are full. Sometimes there's a waiting list, in fact, as of right now. We understand that bocce ball may come into play in 2019 in that budget, as well as Tom gave us some good news that we're working on looking at a piece of property for a dog park that may come down the pike.
I had a meeting with the individual today.
Very good. Is that something that a lot of people want?
Where would that be?
We're looking on the east side by Castleford and Trafalgar. But it's still no commitments, but I've been working on it for about 6 months.
All right, thanks. And new community center, of course, you know there's been planning going into that. Some of that planning is coming to fruition. And pickleball is actually part of that planning, so there's going to be a lot of people happy about that as well. 18-hole disc golf course is being worked on in Branchwood as well, so there's a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes as well. And we had a lot of contacts in March with the Lake Rangers. It was over 1,100, and there was a lot of activity at the shooting ranges as well. But other than that, our next meeting is going to be 2 weeks.
Great, thanks very much. Golf, Bill? Still over there?
My name is Bill Barham, Chairman of the Golf Committee. Speak up, Bill. My name is Bill Barham, Chairman of the Golf Committee. Something I want to talk about here. We did have a meeting yesterday. Bruce Bertillo was there, Ruth Hatcher was there. They're the liaisons of the committee. We have one member absent, Dean Collins, who was out of town on vacation. There was nothing secret about the meeting. I did not ask anybody to be quiet about it. What happened was that we got the proposal on April 20th, just like everybody else did. By the time I gathered up people and got everybody's comments, time had gone by, and we didn't call a meeting until late, I believe it was on Tuesday afternoon. So nothing secretive. We did have some people there. And normally at our golf committee meetings, we have very few, if any, people there. But I'm going to read the golf committee's recommendations regarding the Valley decisions. First, I'm going to read the board's proposal. Number 1, 9 holes currently closed on Burksdale should remain closed permanently. The golf committee's concerns with this approach to permanently close these 9 holes. We concur with that. Our reasoning is based on current results. The POA can financially support 5 18-hole golf courses. In addition to costs discussed in the options presentation, the irrigation system on that course is the oldest in the village, will need to be replaced soon, which could cost up to $1 million. The return on investment of the repairs does not justify the cost. Point 2, close the remaining 9 holes at Burksdale on December 31st, 2018. Develop a country club master plan and start repairs at the country club. The golf committee concurs with the decision to close the remaining 9 holes. Setting a specific date is desirable. The positive reasons to close this year savings of approximately $150,000 per year in maintenance costs. Most work may be done in-house. It would also provide a predictable schedule for golf ops to plan for the 2019 season. The positive points to stay open more than 1 year. This course provides a benefit to golfers because of the flat terrain. At the same time, we're recommending planning, budgeting, and work to harden the country club as a top priority. Point 3, engage a consultant to analyze future golf needs. The golf committee concurs with the need to engage an independent consultant. The scope of agreement should be limited to future golf needs and exclude real estate analysis or cost justification for the Arkmo course. If at a future date the POA board chooses to evaluate the feasibility of the Arkmo proposal, a separate consulting agreement would be approved. Point 3, having the staff pull together this type of analysis would be time consuming and a significant distraction during the busiest time of the year. The language related to the status of the Kingswood course is inferred and not stated. Request the verbiage be strengthened by the board to indicate that Kingswood would remain open until such time as the board takes further action on the golf needs analysis. Point 4, disband the Valley Task Force. The golf committee concurs with this step. Point 5, create version 2020 task force. The golf committee concurs with this step. Point 6, board and management to develop a financial master plan. The golf committee concurs with this step. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Community involvement, do we have community involvement report? Yep.
I'm Dylan Chaddix. I'm with the community involvement. This is my first time doing the minutes.
We're happy to have you here.
It's been a good
You
one.
came on an average typical night.
High whole night. So we met on April 5th, 3 weeks ago, and our main discussion was tailgating and fireflies, which will take place June 16th of this year. Last year we had about 400 plus people there, and we expect over 500 this year. Last year we had prizes for the kids, but this year we won't have prizes, so it'll just be a fun-filled time for families. Janae brought up the grill competition idea that she heard from a resident with a possible fundraiser. Joan mentioned that the food was challenging last year, and should we have a charge for food this year? Possibly a nonprofit could take on the job to take charge of the food. John mentioned that we could contact the 5 Tires and the Waste Management can lend the trailer. We have decided, or I'm sorry, Janae said we have to have a clear time of the event, and also we'll reach out to Skull Rock for music. Time should be 6 p.m. to dark for the event. Joan has to reach out to Cooper for overflow parking, and we have plan, or we have to have option B and C ready. And the other topic was to have recycling at this event, and Monica will reach out to emerging leaders of NWA. And that was the main discussion of our meeting 3 weeks ago. And our next meeting will be May 3rd at 6 p.m. right here in the boardroom.
Great, thanks very much.
Dylan, would you like to announce the date of the fireflies?
June 16th.
All right, old business, there is none, so we move on to the new business and the.
Could you define art in the country club?
Stabilizing the stream banks would be the definition of that.
All right. So, new business. First proposal to be considered. If we have a motion and a second, then we will have a discussion on that.
I move that with 9 holes of Burksdale that are currently closed should remain permanently closed.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second, so it's open for discussion.
I do appreciate all the input from everybody that talked about this subject today. I'm not going to make a motion to table it because this is a topic that we've been discussing for a year. We're sitting here at a position in time right now where we have an abundance of golf course inventory, and we're very well aware of that. These holes, and that fact in itself would probably be a good enough reason to close all the parts of Brooksdale. The other thing is that golf course, to make it back to a golf course would require a substantial amount of money, which would not be practical. As Bill, and I was unaware of Bill's information about the cost of replacing the irrigation until today, which even makes the analysis worse. So we're sitting here at a point where we have two things that are a reason to close a golf course, and we've got both of them.
David?
Everybody in this, at the board table here knows that I was probably the last person to join this decision. I fought as hard as I could. Brooksdale was the first golf course that I played in Bella Vista, so it kind of holds a place in my heart. But the information that we've accumulated in the past year just made me realize we don't have a choice. We have to repurpose the land, and we can do that without repairing the stream banks because it's not a golf course that we're talking about. And those stream banks will stabilize. And if we stabilize the 4 areas that we have numbers on, the H&H study told me, I asked them specifically, and they answered, there will be other areas, and it will continue. There will continue to be stabilization done. So you just let those stream banks stabilize on their own, and we can have a good, usable, attractive amenity without having a golf course there. So I had to give in the end, and that's the way it is.
Other comments?
I don't know if we, is it okay, Tom, if we talk about Keith's paper today, his proposals? Keith Imes.
I mean, sure.
Well, I just wanted to say that Keith Imes has put together some couple of options for making if we should vote positively on this action, that he has plans, he has thought this through, and he has ways in which the land could be reconfigured so that it does not look like an abandoned golf course. That we are going to be doing things and being with sand traps, with greens, with tee boxes, and so on and so forth, and it's going to be done in-house because we have to maintain the beauty of that portion of our property, and as he has the skills to do that, he has made some interesting proposals, and we have to make other decisions, but it is never going to look like a golf course that was just left to seed.
Let me add something to all that, Patrick. But in all these hard decisions we're making, that it's like anything when you have a change, it's a little bit scary because you've been used to one thing and you're not sure what's possible on another thing. And we have no assurance of what's possible on anything. But the way we've been going for many years is we've talked to a number of people with a number of ideas. As you know, for example, the Razorback Greenway starts in Fayetteville, and it works its way up right now to where it ends at Lake Bella Vista. And all along that, over the years, as you know, there's been a tremendous amount put into that and grown that into, you know, a beautiful and quite unique thing all through here. And we've also had art trails here. There have been discussions always with them on the Razorback Greenway, and would it be possible, they would have always loved to come further into our valley and do other things, or at least want to talk about it. But we've had golf courses there, and it's really hard to have a trail like that with children walking and other things going where there are golf courses, so it just hasn't been possible. So there have been a lot of discussions on, well, could we get over on the other side of the highway and come around or whatever. And we finally, when we had the flood, we decided to stop all those discussions until we kind of figured out what we're going to do. Now, nobody ever makes any promises or on anything, but you know, it's also kind of a who makes the first move here or there. So if we say no, you know, it really doesn't make economic or practical sense for that to be a golf course anymore, that opens up the possibility of new discussions and all kinds of possibilities. We know that they're already quite involved in what might be possible around Lake Bella Vista. There was something in the paper, was it last week, about some stream bank stabilization things they are already doing within that. So there's no guarantees, but on the other hand, it does open up a true possibility for exploration with potential partners and ways to make this certainly not just a place that we'll make sure it doesn't quite look like an old golf course, but the possibility for something quite wonderful. There is some land within that too that's above the floodplain, not as much as we used to think there was. We used to think that almost all of that Burkestyle area east of the highway was above the floodplain. Well, now with all this work we've done and with all the changes upstream, we know that the 100-year flood level is much higher than what it previously was. So there is now 7 or 8 acres, is that what it is right there? There could potentially be something else and might open up some discussions. Of course, if it were going to be something else that wasn't residential, I mean, that wasn't playground type stuff, but recreational, then that would involve a discussion with Cooper. But that certainly could open up. As long as the golf course, there's no discussion. So I understand everybody's in motion. I understand how difficult it is. I understand to some extent anything we do requires a kind of leap of faith that we have had something that is clearly flooding, clearly would require a tremendous amount of money in the coming years to try to keep it as a golf course with bridges and stream banks, and that's with not even replacing old greens and collars and the old bunkers or any cart paths that wash away and all those repairs, and to say maybe that really doesn't work anymore, we don't like that, and say maybe we are going to now open up the discussion for something different that with no promises maybe could be really wonderful.
But if you went with the Greenway, wouldn't that take it out of Bella Vista's hands and now it's open to the public?
Well, again, this is many steps forward along the way to see how all those things will be worked out. We certainly have trails through here now that are not the Greenway that have come through here. But I think that's certainly one of those questions that we would have to work out within all of those balance between what are the challenges and the risks and the expenses and the issues of trying to maintain it as a golf course, and what are all of those things of trying to make it something else.
But that'd be in-house decision though, right? That wouldn't be up to anybody out there if you guys decide. Because I can see it being a beautiful park for Bella Vistas, but we wouldn't have a say-so.
And, well, no, we have control as long as we as a POA fully control all that land as long as it is recreational. And we fully can repurpose something from one recreational purpose to another recreational purpose. So we certainly control that. Now, if we wanted to make it something commercial, Cooper has control over that and would have to be involved or give their approval for commercial.
I think the question Dusty's asking is, if we go with the Greenway, does it become a public access facility as opposed to a private access facility? And my opinion of the answer to that is depends on who we get as a partner and whose money goes into. I mean, if Tom magically comes up with money to build a park, and we can have a park and pay for it all by ourselves, we can make it as private as we like. If we have to ask other people for help, it drifts the other way.
I mean, the most honest answer to that question is we don't know. And I would say the only answer we have to most of the questions right now is we don't know. How much is it going to flood? We don't know, but we know some odds and statistics. How much is it going to cost? We don't know. Are we going to be able to find something that's okay? We don't know. A spectacular? We don't know. What this does is take that sort of giant leap of jumping off the rock you're currently standing on and not quite being sure which one you're going to land on, but knowing that the one you're standing on is about to sink into the river, I guess, is about making this analogy up as I sit here.
And,
okay?
As we've reviewed all options during the past year, we've also done some sketches with landscape architects, 2 firms in particular, and you've seen some of those sketches in your presentation here during the past month. And in my regard, I'm anxious to proceed with this particular proposal, and that we would form what we've referred to as a Vision 2020 task force to begin exploring with other partners, begin looking at different passive recreation uses, active recreation uses for some of the high ground, and then also at least explore the possibility of some highway frontage for commercial. At least don't abandon it, because we do have 1,200 lineal feet of Highway 71 frontage that has great value, and we would reap that benefit. So I'm ready to move on, and I would like to call the question.
But I would, one more point is, since I'm happy Jim made some comments, just so you know, and I made mention earlier to the people that we have on the board, Jim Abramson has as much experience in land development as probably anybody in the country, and in fact he worked for Cooper Communities for, I won't say how many years because I don't know, but I don't want to embarrass you. But Jim basically laid out almost all of Bella Vista. He acquired the land and laid out the golf courses. He laid out almost everything here. Of course, he continues to have a great relationship with them in his retirement. He understands and knows how all of these things work. And so he's been very involved in not only in golf courses, but in all kinds of recreational land use, not only here, but in many of the Cooper communities all across the United States in different things. So we have expertise on the board, and we have people on the board who will continue to serve. Jim's not up for re-election, who could help lead such an effort to try to form a real partnership with the several parties involved and find a new vision for this rock we're looking at to possibly leap on.
Can I
Ruth?
get a 2 cents worth in before we go on? Each of us on the board has the same problem you do. We have a heart, and I'm not sure all of you believe that, but we do. When we started this, I think most of us led with our heart until the information kept coming in that didn't support it. And once that became evident, then we switched to what is best for the people of Bella Vista today and 5-10 years down the road. And that's where we've come. We didn't do this overnight, and we haven't said, well, how can we make this miserable for everybody else? We've really thought this through and feel that this is the best decisions we can make for Bella Vista for the next 5 to 10 years. And I don't know if anybody can move further down the road than that.
As we've said, we're not trying to make any decisions that a future board will make, and certainly each one we hope to have the best and adequate data to make those decisions. So anybody else want to have a comment before we go with Jim and call the question?
Let's vote.
Okay, we have a motion on the table and we have a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So, move on to proposal number 2 to be considered by the board. If I hear a motion and a second, we will have discussion on that matter.
I make a motion to permanently close all remaining golf holes on Birksdale Golf Course on December 31, 2018.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. We've had some discussion about this when the question was asked of where would those resources go and why the timing. We'd be happy to continue that discussion if you'd like, but I think I'm the one who did that, so I'll open up for the rest of the board to make comment.
For your information, I have been out of the country for a couple of weeks, keeping in touch with the goings-on here through email, but have missed out on conversations, missed out on meetings, and so I come to this situation not fully understanding what benefit accrues to us by closing the 9 holes of Burksdale, but leaving it open until it's closed by nature. I understand that there's some money that might want to be reassigned to harden Country Club, to use Bill's words, but we are missing a revenue source also in the rounds of golf that are played by our members on the 9 holes that are currently open at Burksdale. So whatever monies we would be able to save and redirect to this country club are offset in some way by the revenues to be gained from additional golf on those 9 holes.
Pat, can I jump in?
Yes.
Just for a moment. So a couple different things. And the information was included in the memo that you received that you referenced earlier that Keith had written. So for every 9 holes that is closed on a permanent basis, there is a savings of approximately $175,000 per year. So if you turn that into 18 holes, then it's $350,000. Now, in most cases, now moving to the second point you made, in most cases, when a golf course closes, you lose the revenue. You know, you save on the money, but you also lose the revenue. But we have a different situation here at Bella Vista in that the majority of the time when a golf course closes, for example, last year when Highlands closed, the money and the rounds are displaced to the other golf courses. So the amount of loss in revenue is really not nearly as much as you'd think, but the savings still remains.
Okay, well, I thank you for that, because as I said, I didn't understand it. I think that what you've offered me is some clarification on why it would be advisable to do that. I am simply trying, part of it is that I'm simply trying to respond to our golfing community and those members of our golfing community that want to continue to play that 9-hole course. So I was just I'm offering that, this is open for discussion, and so I was offering that as something to be considered. And you've given me good reason to dispel my notion that the additional revenue from the rounds being played is not the savings that or the gain that I thought it was. I apologize for being ignorant.
One of the reasons also for the December 31st date was it gives Keith the opportunity, we have leased equipment that goes through December, and it gives him the opportunity to negotiate new leases that do not include equipment for Burksdale, and we wouldn't have the opportunity if we leave it open-ended. We would have it no matter when. The other option was a given date kind of puts some finality to it. The employees, he can make arrangements with employees he has to move them perhaps to help with the country club situation, or he's got other places that aren't filled and he can move employees there so we can save in that manner. It also gives us time to get the permitting done for the country club. So that date wasn't just picked out of the air. We honestly believed that there were some reasons that it was a good idea that that was the date that we selected. So therefore, that's what we came up with.
Yes, sure, Pat.
Okay, that too is another reason that I didn't know about. If I can remind you, I did confess my ignorance. which sometimes overwhelms me. But at the same time, I think you're giving this explanation informs the people here in the audience and those that are going to be watching this video of the thought that went into this. So it doesn't seem arbitrary. It seems like it's the product of solid work by the board to make the best financial decision possible. And I think that's important as we go through these motions. You know, if we were to say, you know, let's call the question, and everybody would say, yes, we're going to close down Burksdale on December 31st. No, I don't believe, if I could say, ask any of you, did you know any of that stuff that was background to this whole thing? So I think it's important, and I think it's, I think you've done a good job of showing how the board works its magic.
To follow up on that, Patrick, I think it's important to put even more perspective for people. You know, as over the years, as our golf rounds have declined here, we've seen, and there's been tremendous pressure to say, how do you keep this many golf courses open when the number of rounds has gone down this much? Because there's clearly a cost to that. And over the years, I know as I've looked at it, I thought, you know, the last thing you want to do is close a golf course because it feels like you're going the wrong direction. And we've thought, before we do anything like this, can't we try every possibility to grow golf? And so we've enhanced some of our courses. We did the enhancements to Scottsdale. We're doing other things to say, get golf going again before we, you know, that'd be a hard decision to go to. Yet that pressure clearly is there. And right now, you even mathematically, by the number of rounds we have now, we can get by on 4 golf courses. Many golf courses do play 40,000 rounds a year on those golf courses. If we do 160,000 rounds, that's 4 golf courses. Now, that seems really draconian, and we want to be able to have a chance to give our members a great opportunity to play when they want to, access to tee times when they want to, access to different golf courses, and we want the chance to grow golf here. But it just becomes difficult, particularly for the non-golfers, to say, how do you continue to justify maintaining this many golf courses? So our general as we did all this analysis, we generally said, we think 5 would be a great number. It's better than it's more than the mathematical, but it gives, our golfers have gotten used to being able to have tee times anytime they want on lots of golf courses, and it would really be a big shock. So if the number is 5, and if Burksdale were completely gone, we had Kingswood and our other 4, that's 5 golf courses. So that's the only thing that we have looked at this point to say that, at least because of Mother Nature, instead of having to make this hard decision, the Mother Nature sort of is making that decision for us to say 5 golf courses. Then sometime down the line, you could determine if 5 is the right number, where is the best place for that 5th golf course? So the first question we'll ask after this is just, what is the right number for the future from a true expert, objective expert? Is it 4 or is it 5? If it's 4, there's going to be great pressure on a future board to say, why is Kingsdale still open? If the number is 5, then the question is going to be, well, this board needs to do an awful lot of work through a true comparison to say, does it make more sense for that 5th golf course to be where Kingswood is right now, and we know the risks of all of that with flooding, or where you could possibly do a 5th golf course on Arkmo. Clearly there are tremendous risks with both of those. Those questions cannot even begin to be answered yet. So we're taking this one step at a time to say, let's try to find a way for now to not be draconian and have 5 golf courses for all of our players. Let's give an opportunity to see what we do with the other land that could be great. Let's see what our true golf need is according to an objective analysis, and let's try to give all that information for a next board that'll have to make those decisions. So that's the best big picture explanation I can give, and keeping in mind, I know if you are, and everybody screams and spits in my face from both directions. If you're a golfer, you hate the board and me because we're thinking about this. And if you're a non-golfer, you hate the board and me because we're spending your money on something that's hard to justify. So we stay in this impossible situation, and we're doing the best that we can to find a balance, and that's the best background I can give you for how this balance comes from. Sorry, that was a long speech, but maybe, Patrick, you inspired me to try to explain all the work that's been behind this. And we didn't start this saying we want to get to this. We started this by saying very objectively, and where do the data lead us? Jim, you're leaning in.
Yeah,
Take over for
I
me.
would call the question on proposal number 2.
Second.
Yeah.
Want to make sure anybody has any other chance to comment? All right, we have a proposal and we have a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. All right, proposal number 3. If we could have a proposal and a second? A motion and a second, I'm sorry.
I propose we engage a consultant to analyze the future golf needs of Bella Vista.
A second.
Okay, it's open for discussion. We've talked about it quite a bit. We do have a bid from a well-known one from personal recommendations from David. He knows this industry quite well, and he knows the people who are quite objective. He's looked at all of them and made a recommendation there, but it's the cost of this is a little under $25,000.
$24,900.
$24,900, and it's clear that the scope of the work is limited to simply doing an assessment and analysis of the current and future golf needs in Bella Vista. Any other discussion on this?
Is this proposal that we have in front of us, does it include hiring a particular independent consultant?
Is that what we're asking, or are we doing?
Well, I've spoken on the phone multiple times with golf property analysts, Mr. Larry Hurt. He appears from these conversations on the phone to be highly qualified. I would recommend that we move forward with this gentleman.
And I have reviewed his resume as well and assisted in the interviewing of him, and he's done about 3,500 golf development analyses throughout the world, and he's been in business for many decades, and his reputation of consulting on not so famous and very famous golf course communities and golf course developments around this country and in the world is just impeccable.
This also is under the 3 bid requirement as far as the cost.
Just for the general audience, am I understanding that this will provide us facts about current and future golf demand and nothing to do with the placement of or any golf course in particular? Just what we need for golf in general in Bella Vista?
Strictly the demand, not where that golf course would be or anything along those lines.
Yeah, this report will provide us a demographic analysis, location analysis, which will focus in on the region and the neighborhood, golf market analysis, golf demand analysis, subject property analysis, marketing positions analysis. So it's going to be fairly extensive.
The subject property analysis is not what we're getting now.
Subject property is in Bella Vista.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Not our thing.
No.
Bella Vista. No, it's only Bella Vista.
Do I hear any other discussion from the board on this matter?
We don't need 3 bids?
No, it's under the amount required for 3 bids.
David's comfortable.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor? Any opposed?
There's one against. Josh is not in favor, so never mind.
Okay, Joshua is not in favor, so the motion passes 8-1. All right.
Next in your packet on page 81 through 106, you will find the audited financial statements for 2017. These statements have been approved by the audit committee, and were also reviewed by the board at the last work session last week. I am pleased to announce that we received a clean audit. Dwayne and his crew did an outstanding job. There was no adjustments. Congratulations to him and his team.
I make a motion to approve the audited financial statements for December 31, 2017.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Bruce is not here. He was in the meeting. I know he's in favor. Did we get it later? Okay, he and I are on the audit committee. Any? Okay. Any opposed? Okay. Okay, motion carries.
Yeah, but that won't, we won't count that vote.
Okay.
He's not.
Pick it up.
All right.
Next, update regarding the beach at Lake Avalon. They're moving along very nicely. We are very confident we will be ready for the May 26th grand opening. I encourage anybody that has not been down there to go take a look at the work that is being done. It's pretty exciting. I'm going to back up real quick. Regarding the audited financial statements, those will be posted tomorrow to our website. So if you would like to read those, and if you want to submit any questions, please send them to Dwayne, and he can answer those for you. Next on the agenda is an update regarding the Branchwood renovation. We were rather delayed as a result of Carroll Electric, but they got the job done. They've been working now. We do anticipate, as a result of the foundation and the soil structure in that area, it's going to take a little bit longer. So it's still in the range that they gave us, but we're anticipating we will be closing Branchwood towards the end of May. I encourage you to go up there and take a look at the work that is being done there. They're making some good progress.
Are you done with Branchwood yet?
Yes.
I got a couple of calls when people saw about we were talking about the valley, and a couple of the Branchwood neighbors are curious about the greens around Branchwood that still haven't got grass on them.
Yeah, we're going to take care of it.
Someday.
Next on the agenda on page 107 of your board packet, this is a capital request for the purchase of a pod. We have some pictures in the board packet of what the pod would look like. This is our experiment. We would like to purchase one for Blowing Springs. It has been very popular. It's called glamping, which is glamorous camping. We anticipate that we will be able to charge $100 per night for this. And this is an experiment, so if you go in, it's going to be located on the left-hand side. And what our plan is if this proves to be successful, which we anticipate it will be, we would add potentially 4 to 8 additional ones on the right side, and we would actually relocate this unit that we're purchasing. But we'd like to walk before we run, and so we are seeking approval for the purchase of this and the expenditure of $22,000, which is the all-in cost.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
I make a motion that we authorize a capital project for $22,000 to purchase a glamping pod for Blowing Springs Park.
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion of this? I think it's a great experiment. I've seen them. We're starting with one to see how it works out. If so, that'll add another way to, we know certainly the Blowing Springs area is popular, and add another thing. And anybody else want to add to that? Or?
Just one question. Are they built on a foundation? Or are they built
they're on stilts.
They're on stilts.
Yep.
They sit on the ground.
We put a foundation under and it sets on our foundation.
Okay.
Well, those are foundations, the
Okay.
pillar blocks. But they have to be,
Fair enough.
they're in the ground.
Yes.
They don't
Yes.
move around.
Correct.
Okay.
22,000 is the
It's not a
installed.
trailer, it's there permanently.
Yes.
That's the installed price.
That's the all-in price. Anytime we give you a price, that is tax, delivery, the option, the installation, it's always the all-in price.
I wasn't aware you sold cars before you came here.
Lock, stock, and barrel, whatever that means.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. I guess we're moving to the end toward announcements.
Oh,
What?
you want to make your announcements first?
Yeah, the GM meeting will be Thursday, May 10th at 2:30 in the boardroom at the Country Club. That's a closed session. The annual meeting will be on Tuesday, May 15th at 6 p.m. at Reardon Hall. The Board of Directors work session will be on Thursday, May 17th at 8 a.m. in the boardroom at the Country Club. And the Board of Directors regular meeting will be on Thursday, May 24th at 6:30 p.m. in the boardroom at the Country Club.
Okay, and this director is making a request that right after adjournment, that we take a break, but that we reconvene, and I'm asking Doug McCash to attend, but not Tom Judson, and I'm making a motion that following adjournment of this meeting, we hold an executive session to consider possible violations of POA policies by a director.
All right, so following this meeting, when we adjourn and when the room clears, then the board will remain with Doug in executive session. Thank you very much. We're adjourned.
Fever.